I was just listening to Cash Peters over on YouTube. He's an intuitive reader and he does political readings. And so he was reading to see what's going to happen with Trump invading the military in Chicago, because it's not like Washington, D.C., right? But he made a comment that said, that he read this article that said the murder rate in Washington, D.C. is 27.3%. And ever since Trump put in the military, the murder rate is really down, and they haven't had a murder in 17 days. So I drove home and I turned off my car and I realized, wait a minute, 27.3%. There's about 500,000 people in Washington, D.C. That's a lot of people. So I went to the Googles and looked up the White House website and big banners. Yes, DC's out of control. I looked at their study and yes, they do have it listed as 27.3%. But I looked at the numbers, and because of my work, I have a mathematical brain. It's not that hard if you've been to college. There was 186 murders in Washington, D.C. in 2024. They calculated the population to be 681,683 people living in Washington, D.C. So just over 500,000. If you divide divide the 186, if you divide the 683 into the 186, it comes out to 0.027.3%. So the administration, who basically shut down the Department of Education and says we don't need the Department of Education, on their own statistical website, doesn't know how to do statistics. Don't know how to read the numbers. You can't just drop off the 0.0 in front of the 27.3%. The murder rate in Washington, D.C. is not 27.3% like the White House has on its website. No, my dear, it is 0.027, 0.3%. It is less than 1%. I personally am going to call my Congress people and my senators tomorrow, and I am going to pitch a fit and tell them that they need to demand that the White House correct it, and they need to take the military off the streets right now, because a less than 1% murder rate in Washington, D.C. is not a crisis, and it needs to stop. This is just an excuse. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is a group of grossly incompetent, illiterate people running a complicated government and listening to some very evil people who want to destroy our Constitution and our government and our way of life. Trump literally did say this somewhere in an interview. Just once we wreck all the economy, once it all falls apart, then we can rebuild it the way we want. That is their idea. To undo our Constitution, and then they get to build it how they want, which means women don't vote. Black people can barely vote, maybe, if they have enough money. It's beyond comprehension, but this has got to end, because we're Americans. This is if they continue with this, it is an insurrection. Literally, that's what it is. So we need to make them stop. They need to correct the website on the White House, and they need to take the men off, because how much money are we spending on the military? It is a national security risk to have some of those people on the streets of D.C. when they should be deployed in areas where they could be useful. And right now, what's he doing? He's sending machine guns down to Argentina because he is itching for a war, because how do dictators stay in power? He's thinking if he has a war, people will like him. And maybe the Republicans can vote scare us. But look, this is I know it sounds ridiculous that the people who literally defunded the Department of Education can't even do mathematics. 186 people were murdered in Washington, D.C. in 2024. Their population, 681,683, according to their study. Divide those two numbers, it equals 0.027, 0.3%. If you want to carry the percent over and just put it in a digital number, it's 0.00027.3%. I mean, ridiculous, folks. So I hope you listen to this message. And please, you know what? If you really want to share this message, download it and share it anywhere you want. That would be awesome, because people need to hear this. I don't know why any journalist has not caught this, but it's ridiculous. Think about the number, what 27.3% of a population of about 500,000. How many murders would that be in Washington, D.C.? That's incomprehensible. And Americans are just doink, drinking down the lies, just going ahead. God dang. No wonder they closed down the Department of Education so easily. Anyways, you guys, thank you for following my channel, and put your courage feet on, because we need it. Bye.